Something is happening inside the Catholic Church right now, and most people have not noticed it yet. Quietly, in parishes across the world, in homes, in the lives of ordinary men and women who feel like the weight of the world is pressing down on them, something ancient is stirring. Traditions that were set aside, dismissed, or simply forgotten over the last several decades are returning. Not because of trends or social movements, not because of viral moments or influencers. They are returning because people are hungry, deeply, achingly hungry, for something real. You have probably felt it yourself. A sense that something is missing, that the faith you grew up with, or the faith you have been practicing, sometimes feels thin, rushed, distracted. Like you are going through the motions, but not quite touching something sacred. If that is you, you are not alone. Millions of Catholics are asking the same silent question. What did we lose? And how do we find it again? That is exactly what this video is about. We are going to walk through 5 Catholic traditions that were once central to the life of the Church. Rooted in centuries of history, tied to real saints, real miracles, and real transformations that are now coming back in the most unexpected ways. And at the end of this video, I am going to lead you in a prayer rooted in one of these traditions that you can carry with you long after this video ends. So stay with me all the way through. Like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe so you never miss a prayer. Hit the bell icon so every new video finds you. The first tradition is one that most Catholics today know about in theory but almost never practice: fasting. Not the kind of fasting that is reduced to skipping meat on a single Friday. Real fasting. The kind that the early Church practiced with a seriousness that shaped the entire rhythm of the Christian year. The kind that the Desert Fathers described as a weapon, not a punishment, not a health routine, but a genuine spiritual weapon against the forces that pull human hearts away from God. In the early centuries of Christianity, fasting was not optional. It was expected. It was tied directly to prayer, to almsgiving, and to preparation for the great feasts of the Church. The Didache, one of the oldest Christian documents outside Scripture, written sometime in the 1st or 2nd century, already gives detailed instructions on fasting. Wednesday and Friday were kept as fast days. Preparation for Easter involved extended fasting. It was not a private devotion. It was a communal practice that marked Christians as a people set apart. What happened? Over time, as Western culture became more comfortable, and as the Church tried to make the faith more accessible, fasting requirements were eased and then eased again. By the mid-20th century, what remained was a shadow of the original practice. And for many Catholics today, fasting means almost nothing at all. But here is what is extraordinary. Some of the most powerful moments in Catholic history, moments that changed the course of nations, were directly connected to fasting. St. John of the Cross wrote extensively about the way fasting cleared the soul and made it receptive to grace in ways that were simply not possible in a state of constant comfort and consumption. The apparitions of Our Lady of Fatima in 1917 came with a direct request for fasting and sacrifice, particularly tied to the salvation of souls. Sister Lucia, one of the seers, spent her entire life as a Carmelite nun, emphasizing that the message of Fatima was not primarily about secrets or predictions, but about conversion, prayer, and, above all, sacrifice. What are people discovering today? Thousands of Catholics, particularly younger ones, are returning to serious fasting practices. Not because anyone told them to, but because they tried it and found that something changed. The distractions that had made prayer feel hollow began to fall away. A hunger for God came alive in the body, not just the mind. There is something ancient in this. The body and the soul are not separate, and when the body is disciplined in love, the soul is freed to move toward God. You might be asking, Where do I even begin? The Church still asks for fasting and abstinence on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. The Fridays of Lent remain days of abstinence from meat. But many spiritual directors today are encouraging Catholics to recover the older practice of fasting every Wednesday and Friday. Bread and water, or one full meal, as a simple, sustainable way of reconnecting the body to the interior life of faith. It does not require a special program. It requires only the willingness to try. The second forgotten tradition might surprise you, because it is something you can see with your own eyes every time you walk into a traditional Catholic parish: veiling. Women covering their heads during Mass and prayer. This practice has roots that go all the way back to the writings of St. Paul. In his first letter to the Corinthians, Paul speaks about women covering their heads during worship, and while scholars debate the precise cultural meaning of his words, the tradition that developed from that text endured in the Catholic Church for nearly 2,000 years. Up until 1983, the Code of Canon Law still included a general expectation that women would cover their heads in church. Walk through photographs from any Catholic parish in the 1950s or earlier, and you will see it. Women of every age, every background, every social class, covered. Then it faded. There was no official decree that abolished veiling. It simply stopped being practiced. In the cultural upheaval of the 1960s and 1970s, the veil came to feel like a symbol of the old world, of constraint, of inequality, of things the modern church was leaving behind. Within a generation, it was largely gone. If this video is speaking to your heart, please like, share it with a fellow Catholic, and subscribe to join this prayer community. We are thousands strong and growing. What is remarkable is who is bringing it back and why. The women returning to veiling today are, by and large, not doing so because anyone pressured them. They are doing so by choice, as a personal act of reverence. Many describe it as something that happened unexpectedly. They tried it once, perhaps at a traditional Latin Mass or during Eucharistic adoration, and found that it changed the quality of their prayer. Something about the physical act of covering, the gesture of humility before God, created an interior stillness that they had not found before. There is a beautiful symmetry here that often goes unmentioned. The veiling of sacred things is woven throughout Catholic liturgy. The tabernacle is veiled, the chalice is veiled. The monstrance, when not in use, is veiled. In the older form of the Mass, certain sacred images were veiled during Lent. The logic is consistent. Veiling marks something as set apart, as holy, as deserving of special reverence. Women who veil in this tradition are making a statement, not about inferiority, but about consecration. They are placing themselves symbolically in the company of what is sacred. This tradition is not compulsory. The Church does not require it today, but it is returning because something in the human heart recognizes the language of reverence and longs to speak it. The third forgotten tradition is one that was never truly abandoned, but has been so thoroughly watered down in many Catholic homes and parishes that it might as well have been daily recitation of the Rosary, not as a hurried routine, not as background noise during a commute, but as what Pope St. Pius V called it in the 16th century, a weapon given to the Church by the Mother of God herself for the greatest battles of the faith. The history of the Rosary is astonishing. The most famous example comes from October 7th, 1571, at the Battle of Lepanto. The Ottoman fleet was advancing on Christian Europe with an overwhelming military advantage. Pope Pius V organized a Holy League, a coalition of Catholic naval forces, but the numbers were discouraging. In the weeks before the battle, he called all of Christendom to pray the Rosary. Churches across Europe were filled with people praying. The day of the battle arrived. The Christian fleet was outnumbered, And yet, they won decisively. The Ottoman advance into Western Europe was stopped. Pope Pius V attributed the victory entirely to the intercession of Our Lady, obtained through the Rosary. He established the Feast of Our Lady of Victory, now celebrated as the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary on October 7th. This is not mythology, this is documented history, and it is not an isolated case. In 1717, the city of Corfu repelled a massive Ottoman siege, and the defenders attributed their victory to the Rosary. In 1955, after years of Soviet occupation, Austria was liberated peacefully, and the Austrian bishops credited a national Rosary crusade that had mobilized hundreds of thousands of people for 10 years. What are people rediscovering today? The Rosary is one of the most searched Catholic terms online. Prayer groups centered on the Rosary are growing in parishes, neighborhoods, and families that had not prayed together in years. Why? Because when everything feels unstable, when anxiety is high, and trust is low, and the world feels dangerous, there is something about holding those beads, speaking those words, meditating on the life of Christ through the eyes of His mother, that anchors the soul. The structure of the Rosary is not accidental. Each mystery, joyful, sorrowful, glorious, sleeplessness, invites the one praying to enter a specific moment in the story of salvation. Grief is sanctified, joy is deepened, hope is given a shape. For the person carrying a burden they cannot put into words, the Rosary provides a place to bring it. Before we continue to the fourth tradition, one that is perhaps the most physically striking of all the five, I want to mention something for those of you who want to go deeper. I have written a devotional called 7 Powerful Miracle Prayers for Urgent Help, available as an ebook. It is for the person who is facing something real. An illness, a broken relationship, a financial crisis, a fear they cannot shake, and who needs not just comfort but a way to pray with faith and honesty about what they are carrying. The link is in the description. But for now, stay with me, because what comes next is something very few people talk about. The fourth forgotten tradition is the Latin Mass, specifically the traditional Latin Mass, also called the extraordinary form or the Tridentine Mass, accompanied by its ancient music, Gregorian chant. For most Catholics under the age of 40, this form of the Mass is something they have never experienced. For those who have experienced it, it tends to provoke a reaction that surprises even them. The traditional Latin Mass was codified by Pope St. Pius V in 1570 following the Council of Trent as a response to the Protestant Reformation. It was not invented at that time. It was formalized and standardized. Its roots run far deeper into the earliest centuries of Roman Christianity. For nearly 400 years, this was the Mass of the Universal Roman Rite. Saints like Teresa of Avila, John of the Cross, Therese of Lisieux, and Maximilian Kolbe all celebrated and attended this Mass. The prayers it contains are among the most dense and theologically precise texts in Catholic worship. Every gesture, every silence, every word is weighted with meaning. Gregorian chant, the plain chant that developed alongside this liturgy, was declared by the Second Vatican Council itself to be the music proper to the Roman Rite, deserving the place of honor. And yet in most parishes in the world today, Gregorian chant is as foreign as Latin itself. What is driving the rediscovery? Something unexpected. Young Catholics, people in their 20s and 30s, who grew up with contemporary worship music and casual masses, are seeking out the traditional Latin Mass and reporting that it changed their relationship to the Eucharist, the silence, the orientation of the priest facing God with the people, the density of the prayers, the chant rising into old stone ceilings. Something in all of this communicates what words often fail to communicate. That what happens on the altar is not ordinary, that something is truly present there. If you are being moved by this, please take a moment right now. Like this video, leave a comment with your prayer request below, share with someone who needs this, and subscribe so we can keep building this community together. This tradition carries with it something that many modern Catholics feel they have lost: a profound sense of mystery, not as a puzzle to be solved, but as a reality too large and too holy to be fully contained in human words. The Latin Mass does not explain itself to you. It invites you into something that was old before your grandparents were born, and will endure long after all of us are gone. The fifth forgotten tradition is one that has quietly become one of the fastest-growing practices in the Catholic world right now: Eucharistic adoration. And with it, the wearing of sacramentals, the scapula, the miraculous medal, the brown scapula, as a daily bodily expression of consecration to God. Eucharistic adoration is the practice of sitting, kneeling, or standing in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament, the consecrated host, exposed in a monstrance. It is based on the Catholic belief that Jesus Christ is truly, really, and substantially present in the Eucharist, not symbolically, not spiritually in a vague sense, truly present. And the practice of adoration is simply this: you come and you stay. You do not need a prepared speech. You do not need a script. You bring what you have: your fears, your failures, your gratitude, your questions, and you remain in the presence of the one who made you. The history of Eucharistic adoration is inseparable from some of the most powerful mystical experiences in Catholic history. Saint Faustina Kowalska, the Polish nun to whom the Divine Mercy devotion was revealed in the 1930s, spent long hours in adoration and described the chapel of her convent as a place where heaven and earth met. Saint Peter Julian Aymard, who lived in the 19th century and dedicated his entire priesthood to spreading Eucharistic adoration, wrote that he had never seen a person who spent regular time in adoration fail to be changed by it. Not in a dramatic, visible way, but slowly, quietly, the way water shapes stone. What about sacramentals? The physical objects that Catholics carry and wear. The brown scapula, worn over the shoulders, has been connected since the 13th century to a vision received by Saint Simon Stock, a Carmelite prior, in which Our Lady appeared and promised special protection to those who wore it with faith and lived according to its spirit of devotion. The miraculous medal carries the image of Our Lady as she appeared to Saint Catherine Labour in Paris in 1830, with the promise that those who wore it with faith would receive great graces. These are not magic charms. The Church has always been clear about this. Sacramentals do not work automatically or mechanically. Their power lies in the faith and devotion of the person who uses them, joined to the prayers of the Church. They are reminders, physical, tangible reminders, of the presence of God and the intercession of the saints in the ordinary moments of daily life. And in a world where the ordinary is noisy and distracted and relentless, something about holding a medal or wearing a scapula brings the soul back to what is real. The revival of adoration chapels across the world is one of the quiet miracles of contemporary Catholicism. In parishes where perpetual adoration has been established, where the Blessed Sacrament is exposed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, something changes in the whole community. People who have not prayed in years find themselves coming in at 2 in the morning because they could not sleep. People facing impossible decisions spend an hour in silence and leave knowing what they need to do. Families in crisis gather in front of the monstrance because they have run out of words and find that they do not need them. So why are all of these traditions coming back now? The answer is not complicated. People are suffering, and suffering has a way of stripping away what is not essential. When life is comfortable, it is easy to treat faith as one compartment among many. Something you take off the shelf on Sunday, and put back when Mass is over. But when the diagnosis comes, when the marriage fractures, when the child goes silent, when the money runs out, and the fear sets in, all of that changes. Suddenly, the thin faith feels thin in a way it did not before. And people go looking for something with weight to it, something that has held people in worse circumstances than these. These 5 traditions: fasting, veiling, the rosary, the Latin Mass, Eucharistic adoration, and sacramentals, have that weight. They were not invented in comfortable times. They were forged in centuries of persecution, plague, war, and spiritual battle. They carry the prayers of every person who clung to them when clinging was the only thing left to do. And they are being handed to you now, not as historical curiosities, but as living tools for a real faith life. The Church is not a museum. Every tradition that is returning because someone, somewhere, decided to try it and found that it worked. Not in the sense of magic, not in the sense of guaranteed outcomes, but in the sense that the God who promised to be found by those who seek Him was found again, in the silence of adoration, in the rhythm of the beads, in the smell of incense and the sound of chant, in the quiet of a fast, in the gesture of a veil. Before we close, I want to pray with you. This prayer is rooted in the tradition of Eucharistic adoration, but you do not need to be in a chapel to pray it. You can pray it right where you are. Lord Jesus Christ, I believe that you are truly present in the Eucharist, in the Church, in the lives of those who seek you with honesty and need. I come to you not because I have it together, but because I do not. I come to you carrying what I cannot put down. The worry that will not leave, the grief that has no words, the question that has no answer yet. I am not asking you to explain everything. I am asking you to be near. I am asking for the faith to remain close to you, even when I cannot feel you. I am asking for the courage to return to the ancient things, the silence, the prayer, the sacrifice, that have made your people faithful in every age. Make me one of them. Not for my sake only, but for the sake of everyone who needs to see that faith is real. Amen. If that prayer reached something in you today, you are exactly the person this channel exists for. These videos are made for the person who is searching, not for easy answers, but for something true. Every week, we gather here to pray together, to dig into the history and the mystery of the Catholic faith, and to build the kind of community that holds each other up in the hard moments. Your prayer request matters here. Scroll down to the comments right now and leave it. This is a real community. People read those comments, they pray over them, and they respond. You are not leaving your intention in a void. And if you are going through something particularly heavy right now, something that needs more than a comment, check the description for the link to the devotional ebook. It was written for exactly the kind of weight you might be carrying. Like this video, if it blessed you, share it. Someone in your life needs to hear this today. And subscribe so we can keep walking this road together. God bless you. The traditions that are not returning by accident. Something is being restored, and you are part of it, simply by being here, by searching, by staying till the end. That matters more than you know.